Okay, hi everyone. It is the afternoon of Monday, November 29th, 2021, and I may or may not upload this one because this is a bit more freeform and stream of consciousness, so to speak. But it's also specifically about a really terrific video that I had the pleasure of listening to over 2 days, because this one was an interview with well, I cannot pronounce the guy's name, so I won't try, but Dr. Jordan Peterson interviewed the author of the Bitcoin Standard, and his name is Saif something, and then his last name. Anyways, it's a great interview. I highly recommend you watch it, listen to it. It is 2 hours or a little over 2 hours long, but that's typical for Dr. Jordan Peterson, because it's like when he has a conversation, I feel like he really has a conversation. And the name of the video is called Immaculate Conception, and I forget what words are after that, but I think it's Bitcoin and Fiat. Anyways, so this interview, this conversation really, it brought up so many thoughts for me that first of all, it took me 2 days to listen to. Well, one, because I had a lot of interruptions during the day, but also because I kept going back to, keep getting back over and re-listening to things, and then synthesizing it in my head, writing things down, because it was just a brilliant conversation. And it was very much in the spirit of what Dr. Jordan Peterson, in his book 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos, released in 2017 or 18, in rule number 9, he talks about like that art of listening, and this concept of a conversation on the way, one in which both parties kind of come to the table open to like have their thoughts changed, or like learn something new, and identify sort of not just blind spots, but like possibly blind spots, but like come up with something else altogether. So in this conversation, this guy, the author, he was pretty much explaining Bitcoin to Dr. Jordan Peterson. And Dr. Jordan Peterson, for those of you who don't know, he's a psychologist, and a freaking brilliant psychologist, I have to say. I think he's in the league of Freud, and I know a lot of people of my not of my generation, but of my doctoral cohort are not big fans of Freud, and he gets a lot of flack and is very misunderstood, I think, in today's day and age. But he's a genius if you really read his work, and if you grasp it and understand it with all its nuances. And I think Dr. Jordan Peterson is that way, because not only in the sense that he's a genius, but also that that aspect of being a misunderstood genius. Because I know a lot of people in my, not my doctoral cohort necessarily, but in my in the MFT track at SCU, some people, when I would like say something or quote something by Dr. Jordan Peterson, they'll like message me and like try to malign him to me and say like, oh gee, do you know, like he's so good. I'm like, no, you know what, you've not actually listened to what the man has to say, okay? So no. But anyways, setting all that aside, in this conversation, this was like a very highly technical engineering guy, because this guy, also the author, he also has his PhD, and his background is in engineering, and then he was doing his PhD in sustainable development or something like that. I guess like the environmentally friendly building business, whatever. So and he began to kind of question that whole rhetoric when he was in the doctoral program, and then I guess he got involved or interested in sound money, or maybe that's how he got interested. That's how the author got interested in Austrian economics, and now my undergrad is in economics, and unfortunately I can tell you that at least for my age group and my graduating cohort, we did not learn Austrian economics. Austrian economics is something that, interestingly, I was introduced to over YouTube, not in college, even though I have my bachelor's degree, honors in economics, and then I have a finance MBA. But no, I learned about Austrian economics on YouTube from Maneko64. Check out his channel too, it's well worth it. Anyways, so this guy, in course of his doctoral, he got acquainted with Austrian economics, which is it's based on sort of the sound principles of money, that you cannot sort of consume more than you have, and that fundamental gives both the power and the responsibility to the individual, is something that has been utterly pissed over in today's day and age. And I don't know, I mean, some people they have some valid points, such as like if something is a meritocracy, then will everything be meritocratic, and then what about those who are like unfortunate, who cannot make it, etc. What about them? And I don't have all the answers. These are all complicated questions. But I would say, what did we do before the Keynesians? What did we do before the neo-Keynesians? And specifically, what did we do before 1913, which was when both the Federal Reserve banking cartel was established. And yes, it's a banking conglomerate of private banks. It is neither federal nor does it have any reserves. And if you want to know more about that, go and read this book, The Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffiths. And if you cannot read, then go to corbettreport.com and download his video, which is called Century of Enslavement, and it'll give you the whole history of the Federal Reserve. And it's very entertaining too. Plus the guy got a very sexy voice. That guy, James Corbett, yeah, and he's the narrator of the documentary. Anyways, because I'm sure if any of you are regular listeners, you'll know by now that I really have a thing for nice male voices. And the testament to Dr. Jordan Peterson's brilliance is the fact that even though he doesn't have a very great voice, I still listen to him, and I listen to him a lot, which should tell you how brilliant he is, because despite his voice, I still listen to him. Anyways, at this point I've gone way off tangent. But anyways, so this conversation, so this guy, he was talking about sort of, what really came out, what struck me was the truth of what this guy said, like was so glaringly, it was so palpable, because he said, the author of the Bitcoin Standard and now the new book, the Fiat Standard, he said that, because Dr. Jordan Peterson, in his typical, shrink way, because he is a trained shrink after all, he says, why do you think you questioned it as opposed to, and the guy was like, well, I don't know, different people have different ways of doing things, but And then it came out, well, maybe because as an engineer, like, the things we build have to work. And that reminded me also of, I think, I don't remember in specifically which YouTube talk of Dr. Jordan Peterson's. I've heard him speak about the Pinocchio story, and also about Jesus. That, Pinocchio was, I mean, the guy, Pinocchio's dad, what is the carpenter's name? I forget, the toy maker. He's carving wooden objects. And Jesus is the son of a carpenter. Like, if you are a shitty carpenter and you are not precise in your work and you are dishonest, that table that you build will fall to the ground. And and that's like the ultimate, test of how true are you. And I think like when I listened to this guy say that, I was like, oh gosh, that reminded me about that aspect, that yeah, you know what, people who are in those very physical sciences, the what I like to call the real sciences, as opposed to like the social sciences, which I wish economics was not, because I don't think economics can afford to be a social science anymore. I really don't, because there is so much impact to the real world, to very, very real things, that if you make it this abstract, theoretical discussion, it just goes bust. And people only discover it one generation later, after whoever has written their books and published it and, been taught in college and whatever, after they're dead and gone, then you discover that, oh shit, yeah, we screwed up, So, yeah. So that was very striking. That, yeah. And then the other interesting thing along the same lines of this business about like the physical sciences and the real sciences, things that have real impact. The other interesting takeaway from that interview was they were talking about Bitcoin and energy, and sort of how it's kind of in some ways, yeah, Bitcoin is deflationary, and but that's because it's well, and in some ways it's like a mechanism and means for energy transfer from, like, say you have a place that has a lot of wind but nobody wants to live there. You have a volcano, a place that has a lot of volcano that has a lot of energy, but nobody wants to live near volcanoes. So, well, you can just have like a bunch of machines running there generating Bitcoin, and now that country can generate income, so to speak, or like it's basically it's stored energy in a way. And that aspect of stored energy, which is crucial to Austrian economics, because money is a means of storing your energy for the future, because you don't want to live your life like a monetary diabetic. And thank you, Brian, for that term, because Brian is my choir director. Hi, if you're watching this. So because I was like, yeah, it's like, you can't store your energy. You're always, it's like you're like a homeless person or a monk, or, yeah, like a monk who always has to beg for their food every single day. Well, what happens the one day that they cannot acquire their food? Then what happens? And I mean, sure, like, monks have taken monastic vows, but not all of us have. I mean, assuming we all don't want to live monastic existences. And trust me, I have nothing against the monastic life, okay? I actually quite like the monastic life. Completely different sidebar that I should not go on a tangent on. I'm so tempted to, but I won't. Anyways, so this concept of stored energy, and, wealth as a means of storing energy. And really the discussion came up about like inflation. Well, why inflation? Why even create more money? Why not just keep that fixed number and keep that as a conserved unit? Well, the easy answer to that is that only an honest government, because that kind of a sound money system would necessarily keep the government and keep the monetary system honest. And one thing that came out that this author said to Dr. Peterson that was very interesting, but he said, well, yeah, because like, all these like economists who are saying, who are like, it's a built-in presupposition that, yes, we will increase the money supply. It's never questioned, like, but why should you even increase the money supply? Why can't you just keep that flat? And he said, well, because it's like, well, then how are they going to get paid? And I thought that was classic, because yes, amen to that. Because you know what?